All right, 6 years ago, voters approved requiring residential developers to pay to help the city acquire new parkland. Since then, nearly $11 million has been collected, but a new analysis finds the city has spent most of the money to fix and add amenities to existing parks. Now those developers and green space advocates are crying foul. One developer even accuses city officials of missing out on opportunities to buy land when the economic downturn pushed land values way low. Under the ordinance, it's perfectly legal to use the money for park upgrades, but should the city be doing more to acquire new parks? That's what we're talking about this half hour. We want to know what you think. Join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter. Also in the newsroom this morning is Chris Tritico, Mustafa Tamiz, and Jackie Bally. Good morning, you guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So what do you think? Should we be upgrading existing parks or buying new ones?
Well, we should be following the law, and the city passed this ordinance that said to developers, you can either give us a portion of the land you're developing so we can make a park out of it, or you can pay this fee instead of giving us the land. Most developers, since this program started, have chosen to pay the fee and keep the land. The fee is supposed to be used for the city to purchase land to buy park space and expand our park space within the city of Houston. And so if you're asking, should the money be used for something other than buying land? No, because that's not what the law was passed for. Jackie Bally, it seems to me to be a typical bait and switch by government. Here's what we're going to do, and then they turn around and do something exactly different.
I do agree with the one point that the city should have taken advantage of the downturn in the economic time to try to purchase land. That's what we did in the city of Sugar Land, and it worked very well. Now the prices are back up and they're floating back up. However, with this particular ordinance, and by the way, ironically, it was passed under Bill White, who is a developer.
Right.
But under this particular ordinance, it does give the city the leverage to make improvements. And so even though the impression was you give us the money and we're going to build new parks or create new parks, it does say in the ordinance that they can create or they can improve existing parks. And you see these type of ordinance all throughout many cities in Texas. We have something very comparable in Sugar Land. You know, they are within the letter of the law. They're not doing anything illegal, but the impression was that the dollars were going to be used for something else.
The spirit of the law, at least, Mustafa, to me. I mean, if the ordinance says you can spend it for this, it was billed as we are going to develop new park space.
Yeah, we were also going through an economic downturn in the last several cycles, and although land prices were low, we were struggling to make our budget. And so when I take my kids to the park, I want a park that's well maintained. And so to make the park safer, to make it more usable, it is kind of not necessarily, it's the letter of the law as well as the intent of the law. And we've just gone through this whole thing where we're creating parks all across the city by connecting these bayous. So more people will have access to green space than ever before. So I think the mayor's got a fairly good record on creating green space.
Well, connecting the parks with walkways is not the same thing as developing new park space, is it?
No.
Well, yes and no. It is about creating green space. It's about creating places that the community can enjoy. So I'm not saying that it's an either or, but what I'm saying is that the mayor has a good track record of trying to improve the quality of life by creating green space. And so if money was used to improve parks, I don't necessarily see that it was allocated to something other than parks. So I'm not sure what the big hubbub is about.
All right, so you agree with
Jackie
that I shouldn't have suggested this topic? Is that what y'all both jumping on me now? let me go to. I'm going to bring in Domily. She's monitoring the social media.
Yeah, Chris, you've got some folks on Facebook who are on your side. You know, Chris Baker says another typical bait and switch by government, and Marcia Kushner says it's just like whatever happened to the money from the lottery going to the education. So Jackie and Mustafa, you guys don't see the big deal, but Chris, you think we need more green space?
I absolutely think that green space is what makes cities. If you look at Central Park in New York, and I'm certainly not suggesting something like that, but Central Park in New York, it really ties everything together, and the green space is what makes a city livable. Just this week, the city of Houston was declared the 7th worst place in the world. Worst city in the world because of all kinds of things. You turn around a city like this by bringing in green space and bringing in places for people to go and gather.
But you also have to remember the city of Houston is the largest city in the country without a true zoning ordinance. So this one little ordinance is not going to change a lot of the issues that we have with development.
No question.
And let me, for clarification, I do agree that we need more green space. However, I am saying that what they're doing is not illegal, because what they're doing within the letter of the law. The impression of what the city could have done is a little bit different, and the impression of what they gave the developers of what they wanted to do is a little bit different. And to answer the question that you gave Mustafa, the connection of the green space through hike and bike trails are totally different than the actual green space.
Building green space.
Building green space.
But I'm in favor of that. I think it's a good idea.
And I think that, you know, when the accusation comes from developers that there was something was misleading, you know, I bought a home a few times. Developers are not known to follow the fine print.
Kind of like a used car. All right, we're going to leave it right there. Donnelly, we'll be back, talk about the temporary cessation of hostilities with respect to the government shutdown.
All right, and I look forward to it. You guys always have such spirited debates. Thanks, guys.
All right.